What's up, dog? Again.
Not much. Again, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm chilling.
All right.
Kicking it.
Yeah.
Little hotter now.
It is. It's toasty.
We're kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah. But welcome back. This is the first time I've done this. Part 2. We're kind of coming back in, and because at least I personally felt that I had red underline notes for myself.
Yeah.
From last time, and I know you have that joke about doing that, so
Yeah.
I also figured you did as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I thought it would be fun.
There were many sentences that I said with a lot of words and very little substance.
Yeah, because also at the very end of the last one, you were like, I felt as though I said nothing of substance.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I don't need to say anything of substance. It's just, if I'm speaking, I would like this sentence at least to be communicating a point. As opposed to just sort of being words in space.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And do you think we did a lot of just saying kind of talking points or something?
No,
Or like,
I'm not accusing you of that. I think you would ask me a question, and I would start a sentence thinking I was going somewhere. And by the end of the sentence, I'd realized I hadn't gotten anywhere.
Okay, so the real part of why I think that is self-criticism on my part.
Okay.
2 reasons. One, I wasn't following up well. But 2, the main criticism I have for myself, which I put in the little description, I kind of undercut the episode by doing that.
Ooh, what did you put? I don't know that I read the description.
Oh, just that I had been drinking 2 nights before.
Oh, yeah.
And you
did mention that.
Okay. And I was like kind of hungover the day before.
Yeah.
And I don't normally drink much ever. So I still I thought I would be fine. Like I thought 2 days later I'd be good, but I could tell that I was still sluggish.
2-day hangover.
It's not I wasn't hungover, but I could tell
you were run down.
I was still tired or lethargic mentally. And
Yeah.
I could see that in the I almost said interview, but I could see that in the pod where you would say something and I would be it'd be a big pause. It would be like, what? Yeah.
I'm used to that reaction. So that doesn't strike me as unusual behavior on someone else's part. I think I elicit a lot of that.
Okay, so I certainly probably have more red underlines for myself, but is that one of your because I don't know what your own red underlines would be. I don't necessarily
I did
have
not
criticism for
listen
you.
back and come prepared with notes.
Okay.
I'm just saying in general I say stuff and people are like, what?
But it's stuff that I did get.
Okay.
You were saying reasonable ideas, but I would just take these big, long, weird silences, and I could tell. And I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? I don't know. So the main reason factor, it's like when you're playing a game, you're like, oh, the light was in my eyes.
Yeah.
The main excuse I'm using is that I think I was still kind of lethargic from being hungover. But then the actual issues is that I was not following up. I think I was not. You would say something like, I'm reluctant to make big changes. And I'd be like, instead of being like, why? I was like, oh, that's weird. What about small changes? Shift, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool?
Nice.
Nice. Hell yeah.
For those listening, I made a sort of rock-on hand gesture that doesn't translate well via audio.
That's good. Yeah. Otherwise, they'll just be like, they're going to have to do a 3rd episode.
Yeah.
Because there's just this pause there.
Yeah, it's important to have the audio, the captions with descriptions.
Right. Were you in a... yeah, I mean, I also put the video on Spotify.
Okay.
But I was going to ask, do you think that mental state-wise, were you in a good place?
I think I was in the usual place.
Okay.
Not extraordinary, but not handicapped.
Okay. Can you get to, what things put you in those different states?
If I'm with people who I'm very close friends with and feel totally comfortable with, I tend to operate better.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
If I've had about 2/3 of a drink, I'm at my best. Or depending on the vibe, if I'm super caffeinated.
Yes, yeah. That's my personal
Yeah, vice.
thing. Yeah. Hut. And so what I'm hearing is I
Uh-huh.
didn't create a comfortable enough environment,
Yeah.
which I think is
You should have, put in 5 years of hard friendship first.
I do think that like some of the best podcast episodes I've done have been with like non-comedians who are just people that I've known the longest. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah.
Isn't it crazy having a rhythm with someone?
Love it. It's
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah. How soon do you think that gets established? And do you think we have one?
I mean, certainly more than if this was our first time meeting.
Yeah.
But, like, you're not one of the people who it feels like as easy as being alone. You know what like, it takes so much friendship for me to feel as comfortable with someone as I feel alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
We're not at that.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
We're also on camera.
that's true.
Do you think that adds? Because I think you and I.
I think I
would
do
have-
better on camera.
Do you really?
Yeah. I think I tend to take sort of a passenger princess role in conversation.
Passenger princess. I
If
like that.
I'm not being observed and feeling an obligation to deliver.
Okay. So you're in this camera situation currely,
Yeah.
instead of passenger princess, you are.
It's kind of a car with
you're
2 steering wheels.
You're shotgun in one of those like driver instructor cars where you can like press the brakes if
Yeah.
the student's fucking up or whatever.
That, or it's just sort of like 2 cars driving next to each other.
True. And they're connected somehow.
Yeah. It's a tandem car. We're on,
I like that.
we're on a tandem. Are tandem bicycles an equal amount of effort from both riders?
I would guess so.
Okay, we're on a tandem bicycle.
Yeah. Yeah. Flintstones.
Yeah.
I like tandem
They're
car.
running.
Tandem car is an awesome idea.
Yeah. I'm not sure how it would work.
Like a long, skinny car.
Yeah.
It's like connected by like a chain in between.
Hmm.
Kind of like a train.
Yeah,
but
I
on
was
the
going to say,
street.
I think that's just a train.
But on the street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tram?
Tram, yeah. Well, tram is still on rails though.
You're right.
Tandem.
Making some good points.
We're making progress. We're gonna figure out how to make
trailer?
a tandem. Yeah, a trailer, but the back one also drives.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of those buses with the accordion in the middle, but if there's a bus driver in the back.
Yeah. And they disagree.
And who said there wouldn't be riffs on the on the red underlined exploration podcast? How do you think the riffs were? How
I'm not
You didn't rewind.
funny. Like in conversation.
You don't think so?
No. I don't think I say funny stuff.
Do you feel that way as like you're not trying to, or that's just not like why do you feel that way? Because I don't think it's true. I feel like you and I just had a fun riff.
I guess I don't know. You know the people who just make you laugh every time you talk to them?
Yes.
I'm not that for most people.
Maybe you and I have a different relationship because I already know you're funny from seeing you on stage. So I'm coming in with a certain assumption or even presumption that you're going to be funny, and so I like anything you say, I'm like kind of
Maybe. Filtering it through a lens of that was probably funny.
Yeah, or heightening it in that direction, or
Sure.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I can imagine if you were talking to a stranger.
But even talking to comedians, I feel, when you're like in the group conversation and someone starts doing bits,
Yes.
I'm not the person who starts doing bits.
Do you latch in? You said
Occasionally.
You said tandem car just now, right? That was your idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But generally, that's not the direction I go in.
Interesting. But when you're on a comedy podcast, that is neat. I'm always, I don't know. I love bits. I'm doing them.
I love them. They're just not my, like, I feel like there are some comedians who are comedians because they were funny people. And I think I'm a comedian because I wanted to be a funny person.
Interesting. What do you feel as though that has shifted? Like, do you feel you are a funny person?
Okay.
And so it's like,
that's good.
Like how, but I don't know. That's an interesting. Has there been a shift? Have you been funnier now in conversation? And this is fine, I guess, if you don't want to be or don't feel as though you are.
I don't know. It's not as if I'm saying I'm never funny.
Mhm.
I just, like, my sort of default mode is not jokes.
What's your default mode?
Crying?
Really?
No. But, like, overanalyzing and thoughtful.
Which is why we're here, dude.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Let me tell you something funny.
Okay.
It's related. I was at this party one time, and you know how I love to do bits and be silly and have fun.
Yeah.
I was with an extremely, like, pretentious, too serious of a crowd who were, like, really not, they didn't like anything I was saying or doing, and like people they would be like kind of like actively rude to me in this way. And I had only a couple friends at the party who can vouch that this happened.
Okay, wait.
And
before I want to know where this is going, but set the vibe. What kind of party is this?
Philly house party for musicians / socialists, and
Okay.
a sort of like
So they are artsy people.
yeah, arts,
But they are artsy in a much more self-serious direction.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
on.
And yes, so artsy taking themselves way too seriously
Yeah.
in this space, and like, and I like music, I like socialism, but
Yeah.
the way that they were acting was so insanely annoying.
These are people who would like talk to you probably for 20 minutes about their favorite radio album and then not let you make fun of them for it.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, so there's this big salad, right?
Yeah.
They
I said, yeah, like, of course, the big salad that every party has.
there's food at the party.
Okay.
And
It's like a dinner party?
it's they just food is out.
Okay.
It's not exactly. It's not a dinner party.
Okay, there is a table with food.
There's a table with food. Yeah, it's more of like a house party. People are doing coke, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And
But with salad, which you wouldn't typically associate with the house party where people are doing coke.
right, and which makes sense that people weren't really eating the salad.
Okay, yeah.
Because it wasn't. It
That
didn't.
wasn't the vibe.
It wasn't the vibe.
Yeah.
Right. So a few hours into the party where I'm just like horribly suffering socially.
Yeah.
People are not. I'm not jiving with anybody at all.
Yeah, you're really trying to give them something, and they are just leaving that gift on the table.
That's right. Yeah. So I start doing just like insane bits.
Of course. At that point, you just got to keep yourself afloat.
Yeah. And I end up pouring the entire salad on myself in the middle of the room.
I rescind my of course.
But it was like it was very directed, and it's hard to explain the context because this is like maybe like 7 years ago. Like I don't remember the exact conversation that it occurred in or why.
Yeah.
But it made just complete sense. And like the few people that I knew who understood what was going on think it was like hilarious and like know about it still.
Okay. Was it paying off something that had previously been established?
Just that the party's vibes were dog shit, and also
Okay.
I've been doing other bits at the salad.
All right.
Yeah. But anyway, if you try to cage, the point is I like to do bits so much
That you
if
pour
you try
an
to
entire-
cage that energy, I will go nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bits side of you revolted.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Have you ever revolted in some way like that?
I'm sure. Because I can relate to that impulse. I can remember times in groups of people, or like in new social groups, when I've said something meaning to be funny, and people have all given me that look, like, that was really weird that you said that. And it triggered that impulse in me that just makes me want to go in so much harder. But I can't think of a time when I actually went in so much harder.
You feel the urge to do so, but then how do you actually react? Like, do you go like, okay, I simply haven't established myself with these people, and I'll be chill until it...
I've been like surrounding myself with people I enjoy spending time with, so I'm kind of trying to reach far back to find that feeling. I guess if it's a big enough party, I'll just kind of find an excuse to leave for another group. And like, even if that group won't enjoy that energy more, I'll at least come into this new group with a new energy.
Yeah.
But if it's like a small hang,
You die 1,000 deaths.
I die 1,000 deaths. I sort of shut down and let everyone else in the group do the talking and just kind of smile and nod where appropriate.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
People, I don't know. Yeah, I get it. I meet most people now through the context of comedy, and usually there's, and you probably have this as well, there's some friend who mediates where they'll be like, Carson's very funny. You know what I mean? And they go, great, awesome. Now I know to give a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you meet people outside of that mediation and they have no reason, they haven't seen your act or whatever.
I won't name names, but there was a time very recently when I was hanging with a comedian I wasn't as close with, who initiated a hang with another comedian I hadn't met. And the person I knew didn't do any of that work of like, Carson's very funny, or even Carson's a comedian. So I just kind of had to sit there being like, you don't know I do this too.
Yeah. You know, sometimes you ever meet somebody, I feel bad where that's backfired, that energy where I'll meet somebody and they'll have another person. Mm-hmm. I'll know that the first person's a comedian, and then this other person, I'll be like, oh, are you also a comic? And it's a bit of a gamble, because if they say no, then it's like, okay, am I implying that now that you've said no, you don't have worth in this space? And part of it is, and then I have to be like, well, then I am still interested in them as a person. I go like,
you're
what do
only
you do?
implying that if then you find an excuse to stop talking to them.
Right. But I think it's like, part of it is there is an element of truth where I am like, I don't have time to meet every random person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I do feel a little psycho in that way where I'm like, okay, but I will still be kind, but I am making a mental note that, I don't know.
A friend of mine.
That's bad.
It's a friend of mine who is not a comedian recently went to sort of a comedy thing, and like met a bunch of comedians. And as soon as they revealed that they were not a comedian, like all those comedians stopped being interested in them.
Yeah, I'll try to be friendly and see what their vibe is.
But it's a complicated thing, because it's like, how much of our time and energy do we owe people? Mm-hmm. At what point does a networking space become a social space? Because in a networking space, it's more defensible to not be rude, but to focus your energy in that way.
Right.
But in a social space, we are all like being a comedian doesn't make someone more valid as a person. In fact, it probably makes them less valid.
But also, well, I guess what I'm thinking is not just from a networking perspective, but from a frequency of seeing. Yeah. Where it's like,
am I investing in a relationship, or are you just someone I'm going to meet now who's not going to be relevant in my life?
That's right. It's like, because if there's two people and one of them's a comedian and one of them's not, there's a significantly statistically higher chance I'm going to see the comedian again.
Yeah.
If I see that same random person a second time, then I'll go, okay.
This is a person who's around.
Yeah, and that's when I'll be like, okay, now it's more reasonable to meet them. You know what I mean? But if a single stranger, I'm like, I don't have the time for a random stranger. You know what I mean? I don't even have the time for comedians.
It's complicated because it's real, but it's also not a good look.
It's a bad look. And something I've been thinking about is speaking of red underlining, a lot of early episodes of this podcast, my opinion has been different, where I was like, people aren't giving me the time of day. And now I'm at a little bit of a later time, and I'm like, oh, I can't give everybody the time of day.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
I remember that with the first open mics that I went to, when like all the people who were actually funny were like in the back of the room on their phones. And I'm like, these assholes.
Yeah.
And now I try not to be in the back of the room on my phone.
Right.
Sometimes I'm in the back of the room on my phone.
No, I know what you mean. It's, oh, the dog's barking. We'll let him be on the pod. Yeah. Dog pod.
And that time the hand gesture that I did for those of you listening was like shakas, like a gnarly bro.
Yes, yeah, hell yeah. You have to type it. You have to write the call. If you're doing emoji search, you can't write surfs up. You have to write either call me or shaka.
Okay.
And it doesn't. I'm like, you know what I mean by fucking surfs up? It's the surfs up.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me search it by the word "sharks up."
I'm realizing how many of my responses are hand gesture based now by the fact that we're recording in an audio medium.
Well, it's also at any time they can put the video on, because everywhere that it's audio, it's video.
Yeah, but like if you're listening on the subway and there's a silence just because somebody was doing a hand gesture, you're not going to be like, I wonder if there was anything happening in that silence. Let me pull up the video.
They might.
I wouldn't.
And you know what? From now on, if there is, think to yourself, there simply must be some sort of thing. That way we'll never have to.
I won't narrate that.
Yeah, right? That's the fun. That's the little mystery.
Yeah. Something really cool is happening visually right now.
I like your nails. Good nails.
Thanks. I wanted like a cooler lilac as opposed to this pinkish lilac, but this is what they had.
But you like change.
But I like change.
When I went to LA, I got my fingernails painted into like cute little frogs and lily pads, and I loved it. I wish I could have it every day, but
you could have nail polish every day, but probably not frogs and lily pads.
I could. Yeah. The chemicals, the nail polish remover, inhaling that, I just was like, I don't want to ever do this. And I was like, this is like brain damage or something. That I'm like, I don't want to be. I don't know.
I mean, people do poppers, which is much more concentrated, and are fine.
Yes. And hold on. I said yes before I knew you were going to say and are fine.
There are people who overdo it. But it's like occasionally using nail polish remover isn't going to make you stupid.
I think it might.
Okay.
I think that's my I think poppers is probably very damaging to your brain.
Sure. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying if you're assuming that using nail polish remover is the same thing as doing poppers, like,
is it the same chemical?
I think it's a similar chemical.
Oh, interesting.
But all to say, like, sure, you might be getting like a little. I don't know the research on this, but I feel like it's not going to make that measurable an impact to use it that far away from your face.
That's valid. You know what?
It's not the most concentrated source of those chemicals.
But maybe you absorb them through your skin, though, or something. I don't know. It's
maybe.
Worth thinking about. You absorb stuff through your skin?
I'm like, I try to get enough sleep. I exercise.
You can't be worrying about every little thing.
Yeah. Like, everything kills us a little.
Want to hear a poppers joke?
Okay.
Is that an enthusiastic okay, or is that a reluctant okay, fine?
I am giving you my enthusiastic consent to hear a poppers joke.
Do you like hearing jokes?
Yeah.
You like jokes? Some people hate it. Some people can't stand when you disrupt a moment to go, hey, do you want to hear a pre-written thing?
Yeah, but we weren't having a moment. We didn't have a lot going on.
Okay. Let's see. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So poppers make your butthole loose. That's like the exact opposite thing that sour warheads do.
Nice.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Usually I do a point. I did the point at the end there, but I do point and then I point.
2 fingers.
Just pointing. Yeah, 2 fingers. Yeah. 2 fingers just. That's how I point. Huh. How did you feel coming out of the last episode? How did you feel both during and immediately after?
I'm never great at knowing what I'm feeling, so I'm taking a second to reflect on that. During, I think I was in sort of a fugue state.
Sure.
I feel like anytime I'm performing in any way, I leave my body a little bit. And this is, there's a camera. We're performing. Yeah, exactly. After, I think I was like hurrying off to somewhere else, so I didn't have a lot of time to sit in whatever emotions it brought up.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I ran into you at a party, and Kevin Winkerton was there.
Yeah.
And they were saying that, also, shout out Kevin, what's up, dog? They're saying that they watched and were saying what parts of the podcast they liked.
Yeah.
It was just
And they had not listened to the whole episode. They had listened to maybe the first 20 minutes.
Okay. Which felt to me as though had you asked, or was there an implication of, was there like,
They brought it up.
oh, okay,
Yeah, I wasn't like, so Kevin.
yeah, I wasn't sure if it was like you're like, oh fuck this podcast episode.
Yeah.
Sucked.
No, I wasn't like, Kevin, I need you to listen to this for me and tell me what you think.
Yeah.
They're a listener.
By the way, I have done that. I've done a podcast before where there were a bunch of like negative comments. Somebody else's podcast. Who's to say? And then I had like a couple friends. I was like, was I chill on this? Yeah.
What did they say?
They were like, yeah.
Okay. What was the tone of the negative comments?
It was political.
Okay.
It was like opinion, political opinion type stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. They were saying that I was like, there was like the F slur and the little bitch and stuff like that.
Oh.
For certain opinions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like,
And were you
What?
being a faggy little bitch?
I felt as though I didn't go hard enough and make the case strong enough. So I think that because I'm really dancing around because I guess part of why I'm dancing around it is because I haven't solidified thoughts entirely in this space. But,
Okay.
I
I won't force you to tread controversial political
don't
territory.
have to be. I just don't want to gossip. But yeah.
Okay.
But no, I do have strong thoughts. I don't know.
Okay.
I forget.
That's fine.
I forget what the question was.
All right. My question?
Yeah, what'd you ask?
I think my question was, and were you being a faggy little bitch?
Oh no, the short answer is absolutely not.
Okay.
Comma, I would have liked to have gone harder with the opinion.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I think that if I had gone harder, it would have been even. I would have actually horseshoe theory come out the other side better.
Okay.
Then I could have changed some people's minds. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah.
And this nonverbal reaction is I'm sort of nodding non-committally.
Oh my gosh, I'll just talk about it. Nah, I gotta let it cook in my mind more. I have to let it sit and cook mentally.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it is an opinion that you have that's terribly wrong, I'm probably not the person to hold your feet to the fire anyway.
No.
So best not to.
It inspired. Did you see my video essay about irony?
I don't think so.
Okay, I made a video essay about like shock value and irony and stuff. So it
Okay.
inspired that partially. But yeah.
What platform?
Okay, here's what happened. I was dancing around this because I felt like it was. Also, I don't like to dance around things too much, which is why anytime I dance around something, I immediately go, "It's time to just talk about it."
Okay.
I did Stav's pod.
Okay.
And then a lot of the comments were very negative.
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of like calling me like a little bitch and the F slur and certain
Yep.
stuff for opinions I had about irony.
Okay.
And misogynist irony and that kind of thing.
I don't.
Part of why I didn't want to, or I was dancing around is because I'm not trying to take any shots at Stav, or I'm not trying to take any shots in that space. I think that he's a good guy. I don't think that was. I think he means well. You know what I mean? I don't think there was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not informed enough for the vague associations I have to be
Okay.
backed up by real knowledge. So no comment.
Gotcha. Yeah. I personally feel as though I could have gone harder with the ideas and maybe changed people's opinion.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Rather than sort of trying to be mindful of the dynamics of this is an established comedian who's having you on his podcast, and therefore you don't necessarily want to be pissing off him and all his friends.
Yeah. That one is one thing, but then the other two main reasons are I didn't expect to have that conversation. Mm-hmm. I didn't go into that podcast going, also I'm going to bring up the use of irony and misogyny.
Yeah.
It was just like an in the moment thing. I sort of have had those thoughts kind of bubbling.
Yeah.
And I hadn't fully formed them yet at the time.
Did that get like clipped, or was that were people just commenting who had listened to the whole conversation?
You had to listen to the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like people who listened to the whole thing were commenting about it. People were like, "This is the worst episode of all time" on like the Reddit or whatever. They're like, "Danny Feldman's the worst guest ever. He's a little bitch." And I was like,
I'm not a listener. I've never seen any of the people in that world stand up.
Sure.
I think that there are worse referenda on a person than pissing off those fans.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's kind of like, it's essentially a political idea.
Yeah. And you might not want all those people to be completely in line with you politically.
Yeah. No, if I am stoked to have anybody that would use the F slur and not have that be from a place of in-group kindness, or, you know what I mean, or reclamation.
Yeah.
Like, if that kind of person doesn't like me, great. You know what I mean? But the third part of it is that the ideas hadn't formed yet, which is then part of why I investigated it with, or that was already bubbling. I made that roundup of tweets on Instagram. Did you see that? Okay, so I took that down.
Oh,
and
really?
the video essay was a comment response video about that.
So you deleted the post but responded to the comments on the post so people couldn't see the original material that the comments were responding to?
No, I showed the material in the essay, and then I anonymized the comments.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can still see every single joke is in the video essay, and I go through them very carefully, and I explain why.
Gotcha.
And I actually ended up apologizing about one of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you guess which one?
I'm sorry. I don't remember each. I remember.
Sorry. I'm really talking at you right now. I feel like there's a lot of parts here that I'm trying to give you. Sorry, what?
Yeah, I'm not versed enough in Benny lore.
Yeah, I had one about fingering rabbits, which was a little bit more graphic, and some people felt as though that was essay content, and I kind of apologized because I ended up seeing where they were coming from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Check out that video essay. Check out my episode on Stav's pod, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How did we get onto that? It was the idea of podcast regret.
Yeah, as if I had asked Kevin, like, can you listen to my Benny episode and tell me what you think?
Yeah, so I had a couple friends who like basically had Stav's Patreon, and I was just like, hey, was I being a little bitch in this episode? Like, is this chill? What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, this is funny. You're fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I did get anxious about it.
Yeah.
Those comments still get to you. You know what I mean?
Would your friends have been honest with you if you were being a faggy little bitch?
Ha! Depends on the friend.
Okay.
I think what helped is that
my goal is to get this episode flagged.
What helped is that it wasn't unanimously the comments weren't unanimously that I was being a little bitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The comments were back and forth between strangers, and so seeing strangers who had nothing to gain by telling me, or no, you know what I mean? Strangers going like, what are you guys talking about? These ideas are fine. These are like, he presented them in a grounded way / is correct. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, cool. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm mad at myself for not being as direct and just immediately getting to the point on the idea. But that's the no gossip rule, but this isn't exactly gossip. This is about myself.
No, it's context for a story.
Yeah. I'm done with that. Okay.
Okay.
How did you feel when I asked you to come back in?
Part of me was like, oh, was it really that bad?
Here's the thing. I rewatched it and it's not. I liked it.
Okay.
I was enjoying it.
Cool.
I felt as though I was taking big pauses and just like, yeah. But you felt good.
Now, what I'm about to say may come across insulting.
No, please. That's what we're here for.
It didn't feel high enough stakes for me to give it too much thought afterwards.
Cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. That's a beautiful answer. The podcast where it's like you can see that it gets like 400 views or whatever, or less. That's even generous. I think a thought is that I'm creating backlog. Is the idea. Like I'm deliberately just kind of like putting them under the radar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then like, as all these people, do cool shit, you can do like re-releases.
Yeah, I'm not even going to re-release them, but yeah.
No.
I mean, unless you want me to.
No.
If you blow up, I'll put this out there and people will be
Please
like, oh,
don't.
shit.
But then what's the point of having is it just like, why have a backlog?
Not to do re-releases, but it's like, two things. One, as my career goes, people will find it. And two,
so it's just a way for
career.
people to stay engaged with you as you.
If they want to, yeah. Combined with like, if you blow up, this is still searchable by, and by the way, you have to some degree. In a specific domain of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If views on Instagram Reels, if like not even an astronaut, just a moderately high number of views on Instagram Reels counts as achieving anything, then I have achieved one thing.
Yeah. What would you consider?
I would love to not have to feel embarrassed anytime anyone asks me for a credit.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed the other way. I think it's sometimes like douchey to give a credit.
But no one would judge you for that.
That's fair. That's a good point. Just feels bad. I don't know. Feels good also.
Yeah.
And to have, but feels bad to wield. Yeah.
But it's not like anyone's like, if I got Comedy Central, I would never use that as my credit. Like no one's judging. Like no one would judge you for you. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a single negative thing that would reflect on you.
I think it depends on I do think it's how you wield it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think trying to think of how I've seen, if people really shove it down your throat, then it becomes annoying. You know what I mean?
I know we can't gossip. In the abstract, how would someone really shove their credit down your throat?
You ever go to like somebody's like profile and it's like, I don't know, if it's like, if your credits are like part of your bio, I'm like.
Yeah, okay, that's annoying. But if a host of a show asks you, how do you want me to bring you up?
Yeah.
It would be really nice for me to have something to say in that moment.
Okay, I see what you're saying. However, I do still think that it can create, like, high status things create a high status expectation. And sometimes I'll go, oh, nothing. You know what I mean? Because I'm burping into the mic.
Maybe.
I want to go up blind.
But like,
you know what I mean?
On the other hand, let's say you bomb after giving a shiny credit. The audience could be like, guess I'm wrong.
Ha! Ha! True. Yeah, I like the idea of a shiny credit. They hear the credit, they go,
yeah.
Yeah. That's true. Do you think it juices it? Do you think, like, saying a certain credit, it creates a certain expectation?
I care more about, like, my concerns around having a credit have less to do with what the audience expects from my set and more to do with my desperate need to gain the respect of my peers.
Oh, right. Okay. Do you think that... Okay. Old quote, and it's kind of been used a few different ways, but it's funny people care about how funny you are, unfunny people care about credits.
Okay.
So if somebody cares about your credits, it's like, fuck them. You know what I mean?
But like...
in a certain sense.
It goes back to the thing about, like, how much attention do you pay to the person at the party? Like... A lot of funny people aren't listening to everyone's set.
Funny. If you're at a show, they better be. You know what I mean?
But they're often, like, let's say it's a Union Hall show. When your friend's going up, you might be listening. But otherwise, you might be chatting with the other people in the green room.
I see what you're saying. If I'm chatting, I feel terrible.
Yeah?
I like to listen. I think it's important.
Really?
Yeah.
I like to see the people I never see. Like, I like to connect socially with the people I don't see around enough. Like, if someone I haven't seen in ages, like, let's say, I feel like I see Sharia Mattis once every 4 months.
Okay.
And every time it is the highlight of my week.
I actually don't know who that is.
Really?
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Okay. Or maybe I do, but I just
But
don't
like,
know how-
if I'm on a show with her and there's a green room, I'm gonna want to talk to her.
Makes sense. Yeah. But it's like, are we talking during somebody's set that we've seen before, or I don't know, or in between? Because you can talk after, you can talk before, you talk in the intermission. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I see what you're saying. There's permutations of that quote, by the way. The original was funny people care about how funny you are. Unfunny people care about how long you've been doing it.
Mm.
And I think how long you've been doing it is the credit for smaller scenes. They'll go, I've been doing this 10 years. And it's like, that's not necessarily a credit, but it's like,
Yeah.
in Philly, that's what they care about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. You're not paying attention when funny people are on stage? You're networking?
No, I don't know.
No, sorry. I don't mean to. But I know what you mean. I understand that desire, and I do that as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes, depending.
I also sometimes forget to love comedy.
What do you mean by that?
Like, it starts to feel so routine that I forget how much I love it. And so I'm not prioritizing giving it my full focus.
I was watching a special the other day. Not going to name names, but I genuinely wasn't finding a single thing funny.
Yeah.
And it was like it was on like a top 10 list, and I was like, am I so tired of
I feel like
the
that. I feel like
ideas?
I enjoy comedy less than I used to. Because I know so many more of the tricks. And so it takes more to surprise me.
Absolutely. Yeah. But when it's good, do you like it better? 'Cause I feel like the Ratatouille guy sometimes, the bad guy from the critic from Ratatouille.
It's been a minute since I've seen Ratatouille.
Just the guy that's like, if I don't love it, I don't swallow or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, sometimes I feel like that with jokes, but I'm like, all right, well, this joke is amazing. I love that person made that joke.
Do I don't know. I think there's something lost. Like, I don't know that I love it more. Maybe I'm more grateful for it because it's rarer. Like, when someone really makes me laugh, I have this thought, wow, they are really making me laugh. But I think you can't, like, I draw. And I don't monetize. Like, I'm not in a way that would even be monetizable, but I don't work to monetize that in any way. Because I want to keep loving drawing. My relationship with drawing is so much purer than my relationship with writing, than my relationship with comedy. Like, I think you can't go back to the joy of being a fan.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, that's how I feel about video games. Yeah. Like, I love video games, and like, I tried a Twitch stream for like a single day, and I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
I'm immediately like so upset with this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but it's like, I guess it's like, it's part of the job to find the joy. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's like our job is the joy oriented in this strange way.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. There's a pure innocence. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that I do derive a sick, perverse pleasure from knowing all the tricks. And if I see somebody doing tricks, I do enjoy going like, fuck you. You know what I mean? I definitely have a hater fuel that I'm able to tap into if I really don't like something in comedy.
Yeah. I think we're using tricks differently. Because I'm not even necessarily talking about things that I would consider like hack. I'm just talking about like I guess what I meant was tools. Because like if I see someone execute on a well-worn formula very well, I'm like, damn, that's good.
But you just aren't laughing? Or like,
no, I'm probably not laughing.
If I can see it coming though, like if it's a well-worn enough formula that
Yeah.
that I know where they're going with it, then I think it's like,
They need to surprise you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Also, I'm anxious in this one about bringing up the other podcast. And I think part of why I was hesitant there was also, I don't want like, that crowd that didn't like me on that one
Yeah.
to then hear me talking about it here and be like, oh, he's still being a little bitch about it. I'm like,
I don't think
you
that
guys
they're
fucking outta here,
your
Mom.
devoted followers.
they're
who
not.
are
They're
gonna
not. Yeah.
Get 30 minutes deep into your podcast.
Yeah. Forgetting that, though, just taking that to a wider pattern. I've been thinking about public opinion a lot.
Yeah.
About, like, what are people's thoughts about comedy and, like, what are their opinions and everything? And, like, how do we change them? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, if those people feel that way and then other people agree with me, who hasn't made up their mind? How do we convince other people? How do we make sure our arguments are correct?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is the, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We have to get cool.
Ha!
Like,
What do you mean? Are we not? I hate this implication. What the hell is this?
like how do like it has to be cool because like it's so easy to be cool when you're hating stuff and hating people. It's harder to be cool when you're trying to
Earnestly love one another.
Oh yeah, or even like advocate for a world in which like we just treat one another with basic respect.
Yeah.
So I think like, when you ask people who their favorite comedian is, a lot of people will still say Dave Chappelle.
Right. And a lot of people have changed it to Dave Chappelle
Yeah.
in recent years, which
But
is like,
I'm even talking about people who aren't reactionary centrists.
right. Yeah.
Um,
Or at least would claim that they're not necessarily. Because I
Yeah.
do think I think that they have certain opinions. Yeah.
but just like we need people because Dave Chappelle, the stuff he's saying is awful, but he's cool. We need someone who's as cool,
We need somebody to sit down on the stool.
Yeah, exactly.
Take out a cigar and go, fucking trans rights matter, dude.
Yeah.
We need somebody with swag.
Yeah. Sometimes when Mark Maron starts advocating for groups of people who have it harder, I'm like, yeah, that guy's fucking cool. I want that guy to be my high school art teacher.
He's sitting on the stool. Yeah. He would be perfect for that.
Yeah, right?
He would be a great, like, he should be, like, missing one of his fingers from teaching, like, wood shop or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark Maron, we got a note for you. Chop off one of your fingers
Yeah.
and then start advocating to children. Did you see, sorry to keep asking about my own lore, but did you see my roundup of hot take opinions that I did recently on Instagram? It was like a roundup of tweets. Just the
I'm not sure.
That's okay. Just the idea, it's the joke idea of, it's just a joke, dude. And the joke is just rooted in ideas that I'm just reinforcing.
Yeah. Yes.
So, taking that, just kind of putting that out there.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like opinions are sort of like a game of Othello or Reversey or whatever it's called, where it's like the white and the black.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and
okay.
you just got to get people on either side and then it flips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you say something like that in the middle of like a MAGA crowd, you're not going to convince anybody.
Yeah.
But if you can go to other people who have a trans friend or something and go, hey, here's why those jokes over there are bad, then they go, oh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And then
I'm excited for this Will Ferrell documentary.
Yeah. Looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not the target audience, but the target audience really needs it.
What have you ever changed anybody? That is true. That is absolutely true. It's a more central. Have you ever changed anybody's mind in a drastic way?
I've nudged my parents a lot further, and I feel like other sort of members of my immediate family.
Do you feel as though there was some sort of specific way or reason?
Arguments on arguments on arguments.
Cool.
Yeah.
And there was no specific. Was time helpful? Was it an argument? Some time.
Maybe, yeah, and
like,
repeated exposure. Here's something that is not about my transness.
Mm.
My dad was in an all-male musical sketch comedy group in college.
Cool.
It was one of these, he went to a very old school. This group had a lot of money. The conversation came up among the alumni of where to stand on the issue of, like, whether or not to make it co-ed. And my dad was originally against it. he's like, you know, we're working in this tradition of all male comedy. There's a women's group, and I, you know, repeatedly had the argument with him about like, yeah, but they don't have your history, they don't have your funding, they don't have your, you know, connections, they don't have your like prestige, and he was really resistant to that, and I just sort of chipped away at him until suddenly he had a different opinion and never acknowledged that I'd changed his mind.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I've been thinking about is I similarly argue with my parents about certain things.
Yeah.
And I've been sort of like, we get nowhere on a lot of topics.
Yeah.
And the thought being, how do you go a meta level higher and go, and that's what I've done recently. I kind of had a conversation with my dad about this, where it's like, we need to figure out mechanisms of communication, or like how to argue that you'll respect what I'm saying. Like, we need to like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like if you could, now the argument you have to have with your dad is to convince him that like he should consider your argument structure, or that he did. You know what I mean?
I don't need,
you don't have to. You don't have to.
As long as his vote has changed.
Like I said, the thought being, the reason to do so is that for future arguments, it would make it quicker if they can see that you've established a pattern.
I think there's a level of... I don't think that people who have reached a certain age are always that open to changing their communication style.
True.
Changing your communication style is harder than changing what you think about one issue.
True. But it might be the ultimate the goal.
Maybe.
Maybe it's like an idea structural. I'm like, okay, if we disagree, in what capacity could we possibly discuss this?
Yeah.
Where there's not going to be any sort of like tense silence. You know what I mean? Or everybody in the group chat isn't mad at me or whatever, you know?
You're doing this in group chats? You're having these arguments over text?
Only if they won't have them in person.
Okay.
Then I send to the group chat, I go, here's all the thoughts. That's a little bit on me. It's more like...
My family has done some shit in the group chat that I'm like, that's not what I believe, but this is just not the forum to have that argument. So I just don't touch the message. I
mean, that's valid. I think the reasoning I've done this is because I've tried to have certain discussions in person, and they either get shut down, or I've tried to do it over call or whatever, and so it ends up with a certain point where, I don't want to, just on example topic, Zionism.
Yeah, that's sort of.
Was it?
I had figured that that's what you were talking about.
Sure. Yeah. And so it ends up with like, I'm like, all right, I'm now at a place where if you're not going to discuss this, I'm simply going to occasionally send you things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they go, I don't know. It's like, this isn't the right place to have this conversation. We should be sitting down and talking about this. I'm like, you wouldn't let me.
I have one family member.
It's like I don't know. I don't mean to drag them. We're figuring it out. We're good, but you know what I mean?
I have one family member who's better at arguing than I am. Who has some Zionist beliefs. And this is the kind of person who, if I lost an argument with this person about it, I would be pushing them farther in the other direction. And so I just haven't been engaging. Because I'm like, I think me engaging is going to make that actively worse. And that's a weird position to be in.
It's like, I know what you mean. I think I feel that way. Is it because it's coming from you, or is it because of the...
Yeah.
Right. So it's okay. Is that due to a history of...
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we're saying. Okay. I don't know. Yeah. And I'm thinking about like, they already view me as...
Exactly.
A hyper...
Yeah.
Far to the left or whatever.
Yeah, this person already views me as like oversensitive and a little naive and having a simplistic view of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I'm like the person that's going to convince them is Jon Stewart.
Yeah. Has Jon Stewart been doing good pro-Palestine content?
I believe so.
Okay.
At least in comparison, for sure.
I think if I sent this family member a link, they would not click the link.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, that's good to know.
Or it's like, but then it's, or like John Oliver. But then it just becomes this thing where it's like, okay, then are they now turning their back on certain other sources? Like you go like, look, The Hague. And then people go, well, we can't trust The Hague anymore. And you go, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So it's, yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I definitely have a smaller version of that with certain arguments about with other friends, but not to the same degree, where it's like, there's certain friends who I could probably never convince to watch another movie.
Yeah. That makes
You know
sense.
what I mean?
Your recommendations have lost all validity.
Yeah.
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 I wish I were a better arguer.
Hmm.
I did like debate club in middle school, and I was smarter than all those bitches, but I lost every time.
I don't like debate, but I like disagreeing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you and I disagreed, which, by the way, I think I'm going to bring up again, because I think we disagreed, but we didn't touch on it enough.
Okay.
The idea of whether or not gender is real. I thought that was a cool thing in the last video.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm going to bring that back. But debate is like fencing in this dumb way. It's like, that's not what actually happens in a sword fight.
Yeah.
And it doesn't actually accomplish anything real. It's sort of like, did you touch them here and here? It's like dumb.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I want to. Today's debate topic is gender real?
I maintain that it is socially constructed, but it is real.
Oh, cool.
Good debate.
Okay, so when you say it is socially constructed,
Uh-huh.
but it is real, great.
Yeah.
When we say it is real, is it real? Is it entirely a social construct? That the emergent properties of that are real in society and that we can relate to and tap into? Or do you believe that it is founded in some kernel of real other thing that is then a bunch of stuff is socially put on top of?
I mean, there are, like... I am not versed enough in the literature to know to what extent biological factors impact it. I know the answer is more than not at all, but much less than a lot of people would have you believe.
Mm.
So, C, a little of, mostly A, but a little bit of B.
Mm. Yeah, cool. In debate club, going, I don't know the reading.
Yeah.
But in this context...
And I never know the reading.
No, neither do I.
Yeah.
But in this context, makes sense. Yeah. And I think... ultimately, what it comes down to is like when they look at, like, if we had to set up our own study of it.
Yeah.
There's like a few things they can look at, which is how does it vary across cultures and how have cultures shaped each other, though, like with like language and regional influence. So it's like if you get like an isolated group.
Yeah.
How do they treat gender? How does gender manifest in that specific social hierarchy? But then it's like, okay, well then how much of that is like what am I trying to say? It's like how much of that is because of like, okay, it's hunter-gatherer tribes. All right, it's almost always men are doing the hunting, women are doing the gathering. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well how much of that is a brain thing versus a dimorphism body thing in a sort, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think like I would absolutely argue for us attributing much more of it to a brain thing. But like, I think when we'd had that conversation, I tend to push back on the sort of like abolish gender thing because I have so many binary trans friends or even non-binary trans friends who have a strong relationship with their gender. Even though I'm probably like closer to the agender side of things, I know so many people whose gender means so much to them that I'm sort of like, let them have that.
That's interesting. The thought being that let them have that. Mm-hmm. Like if you have a trans man who really cares about masculinity and manhood,
yeah,
them caring about that still, in my perspective and opinion reinforces the social ideas of what masculinity is, which is then harmful to other people who don't want that as the enforced idea of masculinity.
But why can't, like,
you know what I mean?
People be allowed to have different relationships with their gender?
They can, but I guess the thought being part of why I'm abolitionist is it's like, can gender just be individual preference and personality? If everybody has a different relationship to it, why it doesn't need to be real in any? Why does it need to be gender? Like, why can't it just be some people like to do woodsy stuff? You know what I mean? Like, why is woodsy stuff combined with like
I guess I'm approaching it more from the perspective of, like, if I could build a world from scratch, what world would I build? And more from the perspective of gender is here. What are we going to do with it? Yeah. The thought being, I would like to get rid of the is it the gender itself that means a lot in the sense of, like, I think so. I can't speak for their experience because I don't give a rat's ass about my gender. Right. But I think there are people who derive a real sense of joy from, let's say, like, finally having access to femininity. Okay, so two thoughts in that space is, like, one, I think that it has to do with the body dimorphism. I think, like, people have, there's, like, certain neurological, there's a part of the brain that in cis men is a certain size, cis women is a certain size, reverse sizes in people who in like across different studies of, or I mean, I don't know about different studies, but in a major Dutch study from, like, a while ago, they found that in transgender people, it is the opposite of what you would expect for that particular person. What? So it's what? There's a part of the brain that in cis males is like 2 times the size of what it is in cis women. In trans it's okay if you are trans to the polar binary opposite gender that presents as the opposite size of what you would expect in the brain. There's literally a part of the brain that, like, is the opposite size. Is it like if you're a trans man, that part of your brain looks like a cis man's brain? That's correct. Okay. Yeah. So the idea of being born in the wrong body, that part of the brain is essentially the primary indicator. There's a video called The Neurobiology of Gender from the lecture series of Stanford Dr. Robert Sapolsky. Look it up. I don't love this information becoming more common because I think it's more likely that the wrong people will use it for the wrong reasons than that the right people will use it for the right reasons. Like, if we find biomedical markers of gender, I think that could be used to punish. My point is it's not gender, I guess I should say. Yeah. It's sexuality. It's born in the wrong bodyism. It's purely the body dysmorphia of, Right. It's because that part of the brain is likely related to, do I have the correct, like, elements of, like, limb and stuff for how I should feel appropriately? Okay, I don't know. Well, the idea of not wanting to propagate this information, if it's true reality, I think it's something we should consider. It's how we propagate it. It's, you know what I mean? Yeah, sure. You know, at a certain point you get into the Oppenheimer problem. What is that? Just because we have this knowledge, does that mean that we should use it? It's just, it's the idea of the gay gene and whether or not that's a positive or negative idea in society. It's like we should just be tolerant, right? But I guess I just, like, even if there are correlations between biological markers and, like, transness, I think over-focusing on those gets tricky and scary pretty quickly. That's valid. I think it's worth, I think the only reason it works as a relevant idea is because some people would argue that there aren't any concrete proof. Yeah, it's complicated. Yeah. No, that's valid. And it's information that I think we shouldn't just, like, sweep under the rug, but should be combined with
Also, don't use this for the wrong reasons.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? We
Yeah.
go, this is interesting. This is worth noting that there are biological markers.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm not a big,
I'll add to that in a moment.
born this way person.
Yeah.
I understand the political effectiveness of those arguments, but I also think that they can lock people in a way that's not always helpful.
True. I guess the thought, though, is that there's another element of it, which is like when we look at chromosomal or intersex people, like different chromosomal patterns, that ends up being an argument that reinforces the idea of gender as not a binary, but as like a bimodal distribution pattern. You know what I mean? I think knowing that there's people who are XXY is helpful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. But you like, okay, maybe we'll separate it from sexuality and gender.
Uh-huh.
Let's go back to gender.
Okay.
Because I feel like you don't like the medical side of it, which is interesting.
Don't like the medical side of it. Don't like focusing on that as what determines gender.
Okay, so I guess the thing is, because it doesn't, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's not about gender. This is about this purely the body and the sexuality.
What's not about gender? I lost the subject of the conversation.
Okay, the brain thing, purely I should say about transsexuality, not about the gender. That's purely about wanting to have the other body, as opposed to about anything to do with femininity.
Okay.
But I thought it was interestingly relevant.
But I can't articulate this as a verbal argument because I can't make you have the feeling that I have. But cutting my tits off made me feel a relief.
Right.
In a way that is just concretely real.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that was... Like, gender's real. Like, having a less feminine appearance made me feel so much better.
Right, but that's... So, are we... I'm going to disentangle.
Okay.
I completely believe you. However, femininity... in terms of society, in terms of gender, the way I'm defining it and describing it, because I think this will help us disentangle. Okay. I'm assigning to things like social constructs of femininity, like nail polish, pink, etc. I'm not ascribing it to body dimorphism, which is pure.
But they're not like people overconnect them, but they're not at all connected.
That's valid, but I think an example. Here's something I've been thinking about.
Okay.
Gay men.
Yeah.
So, gay men and gay cis women, gay cis men, versus heterosexual femme. If you're a heterosexual cis man, you have some sort of innate attraction to a certain body form, like just a certain body shape.
Well, how about this? I have a friend who's a lesbian.
Right.
She, fully a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
Had never been attracted to a man before.
Mm-hmm.
Started dating what she thought was a man. They fell in love. Let's say 2 years into their relationship, that quote-unquote man came out as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So even sexuality, she's a lesbian and she was drawn to this woman before that woman's body looked like the body of a woman.
That's interesting. That's a great point. That's cool. I'll tell you where I was going with it.
Okay.
But then I want to return to that.
Okay.
Which is that the human mind, from what I can tell prior to this information, has some sort of filter of I like this type of body to be attracted to.
Okay.
Sexuality has, it's not always like A or B, right? It's a you can have a range. You can be pansexual. You can have any sort of presentation of.
I think even a lot of that is more socialized than we realize.
That's interesting. That's a great point. That's fascinating. But I guess the point being that I think that part of the trans idea is about that we have some innate, and to you this is going to be obvious. This is going to be obvious information.
Okay.
But I think relating it to this idea is that we have some innate desire to be perceived as a particular body form within that space. I feel like that's obvious stuff, but getting to it from that angle, I think.
I think I lost the thread.
Okay. We sexually desire certain body forms, and I think that we have an internal desire to present as certain body forms, and it's innate. But I don't necessarily think that it has to do with socialized
like,
gender.
there are all kinds of things. I don't know exactly what the core, but like, for example, people with older brothers are more likely to be gay. I think that there are things like that with transness too. It's like, it feels innate because it's been around for because it's since our early childhood. But I don't think a lot of this shit is as born this way as we think it is. This is a bad argument that would play into some transphobic and even like just plain old sexist ideas. But there's a very real argument to be made that I'm non-binary in large part because I have an older brother and because my mom was the breadwinner.
Okay, so can I say, though, that's still innate and it could be epigenetics?
But it's like socialized.
Right, but socialization is genetic.
Then what are we... I don't know what we're talking about.
Okay, so you know how beavers build dams?
Uh-huh.
That's like a certain epigenetic element of like the environment is a relative factor.
No, I know what epigenetics are.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, I don't know what question we're debating.
Gotcha. Well, part of it is that we're not necessarily. I think the root idea of the disagreement is that I fundamentally think that it is. I think that your body form and desires and stuff like that is some sort of innate thing.
Okay.
Socialization is an element, but that triggers different genetic markers and signals.
Okay.
Like if you have a lot of stress in your life. Like if you smoke a lot of cigarettes, that still will do certain stuff to your body.
Yeah.
I don't. That's a bad example, but stress is a certain internal thing.
I guess something being innate. What does that? What were we?
I'm separating gender and body way more. I think you're saying that they're intertwined.
I'm not saying they're one and the same.
Right.
But I'm saying that there are very real connections.
That's interesting. Yeah. And I think we don't necessarily disagree.
Okay.
But I think we're trying to stumble in the dark here and go, okay, well, why would they be closer together or further apart? Okay. You know what I mean? But I think what you said about the lesbian friend being attracted to somebody who was formerly presented as a male form and then came out as a woman is, you know what I mean? I think that's a fascinating case study. It disproves everything I have to say.
I know like multiple examples of things like that.
That's cool.
I know cases of people who identified as gay men having suddenly been attracted to a woman who turned out to be transmasc.
That's neat.
I know a lot of people.
I don't know what to tell you. That's kind of awesome. It was a pheromone thing. I'm still in my mind. I'm like, how do we ascribe it to some sort of thing? How, you know what I mean?
A lot of the like quote unquote straight men who were interested in me, sort of, throughout high school, college, and all the time before I came out, turned out to be bisexual.
Furries. Sorry. I was trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Not to listen. That was a quick little. That was like a hack joke. I actually like the furry community. Had a friend who was a furry. No diss there.
But yeah, they turned out to be bisexual. So like the fact that those were the people who were interested in me means that they're picking up on something beyond what my body's doing.
For sure. But but it's like, are they preempting some sort of change, or are you just similarly already like socialized to be like? Is it a more like if you're a gay man, you're attracted to somebody who is currently presenting as a cis woman. Are they just doing a certain series of socialized things within the direction of what you would expect? Like
you were arguing about attraction to bodies.
No, and I think you've got a great point. No. Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm incorrect.
Because I do think it's the gender that they are attracted to. Like, yes, I think that they are picking up on, even before this person might know about their innate, not innate, about their sort of underlying masculinity or femininity, the other person's picking up on it.
Absolutely. I'm going to do something you'll never see them do in a debate, and I'll go, I think that's interesting. I'm going to concede that idea. I think you've got a really cool series of ideas in that space about that. So yeah, I'm going to go the body. I'm working with the body form thing because that's what we're working with. But these examples counter to that are pretty cool. Yeah. So, in terms of gender,
yeah,
makes you wonder.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? A little bit though. I literally looked that way and saw my frogs.
Okay.
You thought about the idea of what are your thoughts on non-binary kind of becoming treated like a third gender, where people are like, I'm only saying that because people are like, oh, you're not into astrology? That's not very non-binary of you.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like what are these? What are these gender expectations?
Yeah, I don't know. That's silly.
Cool.
Non-binary is every other gender.
Every other gender. We should start naming them though. We got frog core.
Yeah.
We got astrology.
I mean, people are. You got demigirl, demiboy, agender, bigender. There are all kinds of gradations.
Okay, but those are specifically gradations of taking masc and femme and taking some either layers of that. We need to construct an entirely new temple to people who are completely frog core, aquarium core.
Okay. But at what point do we stop talking about gender and start talking about personality?
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a really strong articulated sense of what I think gender is.
Okay.
But there are some things I'm pretty sure it isn't.
Like what?
Like just boys and girls.
Interesting.
Or like your chromosomes, or,
Mm-hmm. Here's a possible idea of it.
Okay.
Is that we've got the classic camp of boys, and we have these things like blue and strength and a certain type of body and a way of being and assertiveness, etc. Girls, we've got all the stuff going on over there, and what we're finding is that, and why this has been a big discussion, is that people can like some of these things, but like some things in this other camp or side.
Yeah.
Right, of course, obviously. But part of why I'm gender abolitionist is because I'm like, well, if you can have any cocktail or mix of those two, and then part of why I'm reconsidering is it's like, is it some statistical pattern? What do we get? You know what I mean? It's like, all right, if you do like blue innately, are you going to like wood?
Yeah, but like, I don't know if this is a direct response to what you're saying.
We got to get Judith Butler on.
But there is the Harry Styles example, which is Harry Styles wears a dress. That's not, I mean, I don't know Harry Styles. I'm not inside Harry Styles' head. I could be completely wrong about this, but I don't think that's an expression of anything non-binary. I think that's him picking something from the other category while still loving being a man. Like, I don't think gender is just a word we use to describe the sum of all the like the average, like, if 60% of the things you do are masculine, then you're a boy. I think 60% of the things you can do can be masculine and you're still a girl. Like.
But then what does it mean to you?
I don't, it's a feeling. Which is not helpful for...
It's not helpful. But that's why, in my mind, the feeling element of it is, do I feel at home in this body?
But it's not necessarily body.
But if it's...
Because there are people who find gender euphoria coming out as non-binary and not taking any medical steps to transition.
Right.
Like their gender has nothing to do with their body.
See, the thing is, I am not content to just be like, it's a feeling and be done.
Then you're wrong.
But I want to know. But my thought is, I need a better explanation.
Why? Why can't a feeling be as valid as an argument?
People feel as though God is real, stuff like that. You can feel any sort of way.
Yeah.
And I don't buy that. You know what I mean? You can feel as though God is talking to you. You can feel as though your astrology sign is real. You can feel a lot of different things are real. I need an actual, tangible, solid reason structure.
But if I feel sad, then
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay, sadness exists. And I know that because I've just felt sadness.
Yes, but they can, like, that's a certain series of physiological things that are, like, the idea of gender euphoria, I completely... okay, here's what I'll say is I completely am sure that the feeling is real, right? I'm sure the feeling that God is real, I'm sure that's a real feeling. But what is actually it being attributed to, right? Is the fundamental, like, if we say you can feel that God is real, I 100% agree that you are feeling that, but the actual underlying attributing reason structure isn't necessarily that God is real. It might be that you believe as though you were experiencing some sort of connection with, like, is it a social thing to
Look,
you know what I
we
mean?
know
Like,
gayness is real because let's take the sort of
Right.
man-loving man, version.
yeah,
We know gayness is real because there are men who feel attraction to men.
right.
I know non-binariness is real because I feel non-binary.
The attraction to men is not the feel non-binary. It's cyclical. You can't, like, the attraction to men is rooted in a thing where it's like,
But it's
now
a feeling.
I'm doing debate guy stuff, but it's
We're just let's say you were a straight woman.
Mm-hmm.
You would just have to take their word for it.
yeah, but there's a certain series of reasons that I understand already that are logical and in place that make sense to understand why. Do you know what I mean? Like, I live my life in an extremely, like, rooted in truth and reality kind of way.
Yeah, but feelings are real.
Yes, but they're not the grounded reasons. Like, if you feel sadness,
Yeah.
that means something. If you feel that God is real, that does not mean that God is real. That means you're feeling that thing. If you feel, I don't mean to talk. I feel like I'm speaking condescendingly with that tone. I don't want to do that. I feel like I'm going to debate bro mode.
I
I'm
think
touching on
gender
God
is
stuff,
a
but-
complex
yeah.
intermingling
Yeah.
of biological, emotional, social
Cool.
factors.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah.
And over focusing on any one of those pieces, it's sort of like we are very far from understanding what it is.
Cool. I like that better, though. I
Okay.
like that idea. I like the idea that it's a complicated mix of some specific factors.
Okay.
I cannot abide by it being a self-circular loop. The idea that to be a woman is to feel like a woman means nothing. It's just a self-circle. You know what I mean? We have to explain that by going, and what that means is a certain social cultural dance of certain ideas of femininity that we can explore, because that lets us explore.
Yeah, I mean,
You know
I
what
mentioned the top surgery thing.
That's great.
So it's
Absolutely.
like
Yeah,
doing this made me feel better,
Awesome.
and therefore my gender is trans. And that's
I
not
love
okay.
that. I
That's
love that. Yeah, yeah.
oversimplified because there
Yeah.
are cis women who really feel gender euphoria from getting top surgery as cis women. So it's not like that is inherently a trans thing to do, but which is why it's complex and nuanced and
Absolutely.
different for every person.
That's beautiful. I think that's lovely. I think, like, and I also think that your personal anecdotal experience is, like, weighs volumes in this moment. Like, I think that's phenomenal. You know what I mean? No, you know internally that it is something that you can feel for sure and is true. And I think that is, like, and I know to trust you, and I know to trust experts in spaces. I think it has to do with certain factors like body. Clearly, I mean, you got rid of part of your body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I just think it's like we don't know enough yet to point at
I
any
do.
one of the pieces
Sorry.
and say it's this thing, because every time we try, evidence comes in another direction to complicate it.
That's cool, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. I think that right now the right wing people say you guys have nothing, and we go, hold on, it's a lot. Give us a
Okay.
second.
Yes.
And we're looking at the board. We've got the brain thing. We've got
Sure.
we've got this anecdotal thing about certain people dating, and then they find out it's the, you know what I mean?
Sure.
We go, give us a damn second. We're going to figure it out.
Okay.
Do you have anywhere to be, by the way? I don't mean to keep it.
What time is it?
I'm
like going to a mic, but I think
6:30.
I should probably start to head on the sooner side rather than the later side.
Cool. Yeah, we can start wrapping up.
Yeah.
We're just having fun.
Yeah.
We kind of, do you feel like we said something of substance this time?
We got into the territory. It's like a subject that's deeply important to me that I'm very ill qualified to defend my positions on.
I'll say I feel like we got into a bit of a flow state.
Okay.
I feel like initially we were like, all right, we were kind of, we were a little, just reviewing, we were kind of Akko Taco last time because I felt weird from being fatigued and just read underline. But then this time we ended up getting to a place where we were like, what is gender?
Okay.
What is gender?
Yeah.
And that felt good. Because I really respect your thoughts and opinions in this space. I do also just have specific logic structures that I'm like, well, this one doesn't fit that, and I gotta go, and I'm trying to be the, and I want to, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm trying to be like, let's rigorously define this together in this moment. But sorry,
I guess and I don't, because I do want to start to wrap up. I don't want to get too, but it's like,
sure.
I feel like if we tried too hard to define it right now, we'd end up with something like the four humors theory.
Oh, sure.
Like if we tried to codify a definition rather than sort of keeping it open to the search.
Oh, sure.
We would end up so wildly wrong.
I love that. And just an interesting question to pose to the crowd is perhaps, is the four humors theory, is some initial attempt at medicine theory, even if wrong,
even
good?
If you end up bloodletting and...
Because is attempting to is the initial search what leads ultimately to the correct search?
It's been a long time since I've taken any sort of history of science, but I feel like they were sort of like, yep, we nailed it, and then they a little bit stopped working on that. Like that's how you got from sort of the classical period into the Dark Ages.
Okay, but then maybe I'll offer, do you think that currently in society we have the four humors of gender, but it's the two genders?
I guess, yeah.
And so we're already at the bloodletting point.
Maybe, I don't know.
We're trying. It's interesting.
It's
interesting. You gotta go. But it's kind of neat. I appreciated that. And you can vote for who won the debate.
Yeah.
Now on your phone.
Can you let me know in the comments what the debate was about?
That's fun. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Rock and roll. You always have to shake hands at the end of a debate. Peace.
Yeah.